I've always believed that family was the one thing you could count on. At 69 years old, with arthritic hands that still managed to bake the best sweet potato pie in all of Jackson Heights, Queens, I thought I had seen it all. My name is Eleanora Washington, and I spent 43 years working as a nurse at Elmhurst Hospital, putting my son Marcus through college, and building a life in the 4-bedroom brownstone my late husband James and I purchased in 1978 for $42,000. That house, our home, became the center of our family's universe, the place where holidays were celebrated, where neighbors dropped by for coffee and conversation, where I had planted rose bushes that bloomed every spring like clockwork. After James passed from a heart attack 6 years ago, the house felt emptier, but it was still mine, filled with memories in every corner, from the height marks on the kitchen door frame tracking Marcus's growth to the small crack in the living room ceiling from when the upstairs pipe burst during the blizzard of '96. I never thought I'd have to defend my right to that home, especially not against my own flesh and blood. It all began when Marcus married Vanessa. She was beautiful, ambitious, and 15 years younger than my son. I had my reservations, what mother doesn't, but I kept them to myself. Give her a chance, James would have said. So I did. For the first few years, things were cordial, if not warm. Vanessa was always polite, though she rarely accepted my invitations for Sunday dinners or family gatherings. Marcus explained she was busy building her real estate career, and I understood ambition. Hadn't I worked double shifts for years to put him through NYU? When they announced they were having trouble finding an affordable place in the city, I suggested they move into the spare bedroom temporarily. Just until you find something suitable, I offered. Marcus hugged me tight, his eyes watery with gratitude. Vanessa's smile didn't quite reach her eyes, but she thanked me nonetheless. That was 18 months ago. The arrangement worked well enough at first. I had company in the big old house, and Marcus seemed happy to be home. He'd sit with me on the porch in the evenings, just like when he was a boy, talking about his work at the community college where he taught history. Vanessa was rarely around, often coming home late from showing properties or networking events. When she was home, she spent most of her time on her laptop in their bedroom or on calls, her voice drifting down the hallway as she discussed commission rates and closing costs. The first sign of trouble came when Marcus started suggesting I upgrade the house. "Mom, this place could be worth over $2 million if we modernized it a bit," he said one evening as we watched Wheel of Fortune, my nightly ritual. Vanessa says the original features are charming, but outdated kitchens and bathrooms kill property values. "This kitchen has served me just fine for over 40 years, I replied, patting his hand. "And I don't need granite countertops to make my cornbread." He laughed, but brought it up again the following week, then again, and again. Each time the suggestions became more insistent. Vanessa started leaving real estate magazines open to renovation articles on my coffee table. They'd casually mention friends who had flipped their parents' outdated homes and made incredible profits. "I'm not looking to sell," I told them plainly one dinner in March. "This is my home, not an investment property." "Of course, Mom," Marcus said quickly, shooting a glance at Vanessa, who was pushing her collard greens around her plate with barely disguised disdain. "We just want you to maximize your asset. It's about securing your future." "My future is secure," I said firmly. "I have my pension, my savings, and this house that's fully paid for. That's more security than most people get in this lifetime." The conversation shifted, but something had changed. I noticed how Vanessa would assess the rooms when she thought I wasn't looking, making notes in her phone. How Marcus began to mention his friend's mother who had fallen, broken her hip, and had to be moved to assisted living for her own good. How mail addressed to me would sometimes be opened before I got to it, especially bank statements and property tax assessments. Then came the phone calls. A retirement community representative called, saying they were following up on my inquiry. A real estate agent left a message about providing a courtesy market evaluation that I had supposedly requested. A contractor showed up unannounced one Tuesday morning to discuss the kitchen remodel plans that I had never approved. There must be some mistake, I told him, standing firm in my doorway, not inviting him in. No mistake, ma'am. I've got the appointment right here, he said, showing me his phone screen with my address and Vanessa's name as the contact. Your daughter scheduled it last week. She is not my daughter, I corrected him. She's my daughter-in-law, and she has no authority to schedule renovations on my home. After he left, I confronted them both that evening. Vanessa's face flushed with anger, not embarrassment as I'd expected. We're just trying to help, Eleonora, she said, using my first name as she always did, refusing the mom that would have acknowledged our relationship. This house is too much for you to manage alone. I'm managing just fine, I countered. And I'd appreciate you both respecting my decisions about my own property. Marcus looked uncomfortable, caught between his wife and his mother in the, Mom, we're thinking about your future. What if you fall? What if there's an emergency? This neighborhood isn't as safe as it used to be. This neighborhood is my home. These neighbors are the ones who brought me food for weeks after your father died, who check on me during heat waves, who sit with me on the stoop and watch the world go by. I'm not leaving. That night I couldn't sleep. Something about the exchange had unsettled me deeply. I got up to make some chamomile tea, my house slippers whispering against the hardwood floors that James had refinished himself the summer before Marcus started high school. As I passed the guest room, their room, I heard Vanessa's voice, sharp and clear in the quiet house. We've tried it your way, Marcus. She's not going to leave voluntarily. She's my mother, my son responded, his voice lower, harder to hear. And this is a $2 million property in a rapidly gentrifying neighborhood that she's sitting on like some stubborn relic of the past. Do you know what we could do with that money? We could buy our dream house, invest the rest, never worry about money again. We can't just force her out, Marcus said, but his voice lacked conviction. Actually, we can. I've been looking into it. She's showing signs of cognitive decline. You've noticed it too, the forgotten appointments, the confusion about her medications. I pressed my hand against my chest, feeling my heart pound beneath my palm. What forgotten appointments? What confusion? I took 2 medications daily for my blood pressure and had never once mixed them up. That's normal aging, Marcus protested. She's almost 70. Or it's the beginning of dementia. Dr. Phillips said he'd evaluate her if we had concerns. 1 diagnosis of cognitive impairment, and we could petition for guardianship. The house would need to be sold to pay for her care. It's for her own good, really. Dr. Phillips, my son's college friend, who had opened a practice in Manhattan, who had insisted on doing a courtesy checkup on me last month, asking odd questions about whether I could remember what I'd had for breakfast or what year it was. I don't know, Vanessa. It feels wrong. What's wrong is letting a valuable asset sit deteriorating while your mother rattles around this massive house alone. What's wrong is us living in a cramped 1-bedroom in Astoria when this house could set us up for life. You said yourself she gets confused sometimes. Everyone gets confused sometimes. That doesn't mean... Think about our future, Marcus. The children we want to have, the life we deserve. Your mother had her life with your father. They bought this house for practically nothing and benefited from all the appreciation. Now it's our turn. I backed away from the door, tea forgotten, and returned to my bedroom. Sleep was impossible now. I sat in the armchair by the window, looking out at the quiet street, the moonlight silvering the tops of the cars and the branches of the old oak tree in my front yard. The same tree that Marcus had once built a makeshift treehouse in, against his father's wishes. James had been furious at first, then impressed by our son's determination. Instead of tearing it down, he had helped Marcus reinforce it, making it safer. Where was that son now? The boy who had once written me poems for Mother's Day? Who had held my hand at his father's funeral and promised, "I'll take care of you, Mom, just like you always took care of me." Now he was in the spare bedroom, plotting with his wife to take my home. I didn't confront them the next morning. Instead, I watched them carefully, noting how Vanessa asked me the same question twice within 10 minutes, then exchanged a meaningful look with Marcus when I pointed it out. How my son suggested that perhaps I should let him handle my finances to make things easier, since I seemed confused about the bank statement last week. There had been no confusion. I had questioned a fee that turned out to be legitimate, but I had been right to ask. That afternoon, while they were both at work, I called my old friend Bernice, who had retired from the hospital's legal department years ago. We met for coffee at the diner on Northern Boulevard that had been our go-to spot for decades. "They're setting you up, Ellie," she said bluntly after I explained the situation. Her hands, with their prominent veins and age spots so similar to my own, wrapped around her coffee cup. "This happens more often than you'd think. Adult children get dollar signs in their eyes, especially with property values what they are now." "But Marcus, my own son—" My voice caught, and Bernice reached across the table to squeeze my hand. "People change. Money changes them more. And from what you've told me about this Vanessa, she's been eyeing your house since day one. What can I do?" "First, secure your documents. Birth certificate, deed to the house, financial records, medical records, everything. Keep them somewhere safe, not in the house. Second, get a proper medical evaluation, but not with this Dr. Phillips character. You need an independent assessment that confirms you're competent. Third, see a lawyer, one they don't know about, and update your will. Make it crystal clear what your wishes are." "I always thought the house would go to Marcus anyway," I admitted. "That was before he started trying to take it from you while you're still alive," Bernice pointed out. "You've worked too hard, Ellie. Don't let them steal your security from under you." I followed Bernice's advice. That week, I visited Dr. Rivera, who had been my primary care physician for 15 years. I explained my concerns about potential cognitive assessments in my future and asked for a thorough evaluation. "Mrs. Washington, I've known you for a long time," she said, after completing a comprehensive cognitive assessment. "You are as sharp as ever. There is absolutely no indication of dementia or significant cognitive impairment. Normal age-related changes, yes, but nothing that would impact your ability to make decisions or live independently." She provided a detailed written report, which I promptly took to a safe deposit box at a bank, where I opened a new account, one that neither Marcus nor Vanessa knew about. There, I also stored my deed, birth certificate, insurance policies, and other important papers that had previously been kept in a file cabinet in my home office. Next, I contacted a lawyer recommended by Bernice. Catherine Chen was a no-nonsense elder law attorney who had seen situations like mine before. "Unfortunately, this is not uncommon," she told me during our first meeting. "But you're ahead of the game by recognizing what's happening and taking proactive steps." We updated my will, but more importantly, created a comprehensive estate plan with a durable power of attorney and healthcare proxy, naming Bernice, not Marcus, as my agent. We also drafted a letter documenting my current wishes regarding my property and living situation, had it notarized, and filed it with her office. "This creates a paper trail," Catherine explained. "If they try to claim later that you were incompetent during this period, we have documentation proving otherwise." I also installed small security cameras in my living room and kitchen, nothing obvious. Just enough to record any conversations or incidents that might occur. It felt strange spying in my own home, but Catherine had suggested it as additional protection. For 2 weeks, I went about my business as usual, giving no indication that I knew what they were planning. I noticed that items were being moved in my house, small things at first. The jewelry box that had belonged to my grandmother was now on a different shelf. The folder with my pension information was no longer where I kept it in my desk. The spare key I kept in a kitchen drawer was missing. Then one night, I woke at 3 a.m, parched and needing water. As I approached the kitchen, I heard voices, Vanessa's and a man's, that wasn't Marcus. I stopped in the hallway, hidden by the shadows. "We need to move quickly," Vanessa was saying. "Marcus is getting cold feet. He keeps talking about finding another solution that doesn't involve selling the house." "There is no better solution," the man replied. I didn't recognize his voice. "This property is a gold mine. The development company I represent is buying up everything they can in this neighborhood. We can close within 30 days once it's on the market. First, we need to get her out. The guardianship hearing is scheduled for next month, but these things can get messy if she fights it." "Does she suspect anything?" Vanessa laughed softly. "She's an old woman who watches game shows and bakes pies. She has no idea." "What about her things? Family heirlooms, sentimental items? Those can become sticking points." "Take her things first," Vanessa said, her voice matter of fact. "Anything valuable or irreplaceable. That way, if she makes trouble later, we have leverage. Cooperate, or you'll never see your precious photos and jewelry again." I've already started relocating some items. I felt sick. The missing jewelry box, the moved papers. She hadn't been trying to gaslight me into thinking I was confused. She'd been stealing from me. Systematically. "Marcus won't like that," the man cautioned. "Marcus doesn't need to know everything. He's too sentimental about his mother. I'm handling this, and I'll bring him around when it's done. The important thing is that you're ready to move when I give the word. Your company gets the property at the agreed price. I get my commission as the listing agent, plus our special arrangement on the side. And you're sure the son will go along with all this in the end?" "He's weak," Vanessa said dismissively. "Always has been. That's why he let his mother control him for so long. Now I'm the one he listens to. He'll do what I tell him to do." I backed away silently, my heart pounding so loudly I feared they might hear it. In my bedroom, I sank onto the edge of my bed, hands trembling. The contempt in Vanessa's voice when she spoke about my son, her husband, was almost as shocking as her plot against me. Almost, but not quite. Sleep was impossible. I sat in the dark, my mind racing. By morning, I knew what I had to do. Over breakfast, I was the picture of normality, serving pancakes like it was any other Saturday. Marcus seemed troubled, quieter than usual. Vanessa was animated, talking about a property she was showing later that day. "Actually," I said casually, pouring more coffee, "I was thinking of visiting my sister in Baltimore next week. It's been too long since I've seen her." Vanessa's eyes lit up. "That's a wonderful idea, Eleonora. How long would you stay?" "I'm not sure. Maybe a week or two." I had no intention of going to Baltimore. My sister Ruth had passed 3 years ago, but they didn't need to know that. "I could drive you to the train station," Marcus offered, looking relieved at the thought of my temporary absence. "No need, son. Bernice will take me. You two have enough to do." The trap was set. As soon as they left the house, Marcus to the college for weekend office hours, Vanessa to her property showing. I called Bernice. "It's worse than we thought," I told her, explaining what I'd overheard. "They've scheduled a guardianship hearing next month without even telling me." "Pack a bag," she said immediately. "You're staying with me until we sort this out." By noon, I was installed in Bernice's spare bedroom in her co-op in Forest Hills. By 3, we were sitting in Catherine Chen's office for an emergency weekend meeting. "This changes things," Catherine said grimly, after hearing the recorded conversation from my security camera. "This isn't just a family disagreement anymore. They're conspiring to defraud you and potentially committing elder abuse." The man she was speaking with, If he's representing a development company while making side arrangements with your daughter-in-law, who would be acting as the listing agent, that's a serious conflict of interest and potentially illegal. What do I do? I asked, feeling suddenly tired. The weight of betrayal was heavy, making my shoulders slump. We go on the offensive, Catherine replied firmly. First, we file for an emergency injunction to prevent any action on the guardianship hearing they've apparently scheduled without proper notification. Second, we document the removal of your personal property, that's theft. Third, we investigate this development company and the side arrangement Vanessa mentioned. The next week passed in a blur of legal meetings, documentation, and strategic planning. I stayed with Bernice, only returning to my house briefly with Catherine and a private investigator to collect evidence and additional belongings. We documented the missing items. My grandmother's jewelry box had been emptied of the pearl necklace James had given me on our 25th anniversary, the small diamond earrings I'd worn at Marcus's graduation, and other irreplaceable pieces. My late husband's watch was gone from the dresser drawer. Photo albums were missing. The safe in my closet had been opened. The combination was Marcus's birthday, and the emergency cash I kept there was gone. We also discovered through the security camera footage that Vanessa had brought a locksmith to change the locks the day after I left, telling him that her elderly mother-in-law had been showing signs of wandering and they were concerned for her safety. The most damning evidence, however, came from Catherine's investigator, who uncovered the connection between Vanessa and Meridian Development Group. She had been quietly funneling properties their way for years, receiving kickbacks well beyond her standard commission, a clear violation of real estate ethics and potentially illegal. The man in my kitchen had been Darius Whitley, VP of Acquisitions, who had a history of targeting properties in gentrifying neighborhoods, particularly those owned by elderly residents. When the day of the guardianship hearing arrived, Marcus and Vanessa were unprepared for what awaited them. Instead of finding me confused and unrepresented, they walked into a courtroom where I sat confidently beside Catherine, with Dr. Rivera ready to testify about my cognitive competence and a stack of evidence documenting their scheme. The look of shock on my son's face when he saw me will stay with me forever. There was surprise, yes, but also shame, a flicker of recognition that what he had been part of was deeply wrong. Vanessa's expression hardened into something ugly. The judge was a no-nonsense woman in her 60s who listened carefully as Catherine presented our case, the medical evaluation confirming my competence. The security camera footage of Vanessa and Darius Whitley discussing their plan, the evidence of stolen property, the undisclosed financial arrangement with Meridian Development, and the deceptive scheduling of a guardianship hearing without proper notification. Your Honor, Marcus's attorney began. My clients had genuine concerns about Mrs. Washington's ability to care for herself. Is that why they removed valuable personal property from her home without her knowledge? The judge interrupted. Is that why Mrs. Washington's daughter-in-law was recorded discussing plans to use those items as leverage? Is that why they changed the locks on a property they do not own? Marcus looked stricken. He turned to Vanessa, who avoided his gaze. The judge dismissed the guardianship petition with prejudice, meaning they couldn't refile it. She also issued a temporary restraining order preventing them from entering my property or contacting me directly while the investigation into the missing items and potential financial misconduct continued. Outside the courtroom, Marcus approached me, his eyes red-rimmed. Mom, I didn't know about the jewelry, the locksmith, I swear. I looked at my son, my only child, the boy I had raised with all the love in my heart, and felt a complicated mix of anger, disappointment, and an enduring wounded love. But you knew about the guardianship hearing, I said quietly. You knew about the plan to sell my home against my wishes. You let your wife call me confused and incompetent when you know I'm not. You betrayed me, Marcus. I was trying to protect you, he insisted, but the words rang hollow. No. Son, you were trying to take what's mine before I'm gone. There's no protection in that. He flinched as if I'd struck him. What happens now? Now I go home, my home, and you figure out your life with Vanessa. But it won't include my house or my assets. The aftermath was messy, as these things often are. The investigation into Vanessa's dealings with Meridian Development resulted in her real estate license being suspended pending a full ethics hearing. Most of my stolen items were recovered from a storage unit rented in Marcus's name, though he continued to insist he hadn't known they were there. Marcus and Vanessa separated 3 months later. He called me repeatedly, leaving voicemails full of apologies and explanations. I wasn't ready to hear them. The wound was too fresh, the betrayal too profound. I changed my will again. The house would now go to a trust that would convert it into affordable housing for senior citizens in the neighborhood. People like me, who had built lives there and deserved to age in place without fear of being pushed out by gentrification or greedy relatives. Bernice suggested I sell and move anyway. Too many bad memories now, she reasoned, but I refused. This is my home, I told her as we sat on my front porch, watching the summer twilight settle over the street. I won't be driven from it, not by developers, not by Vanessa, not by painful memories. 6 months after the hearing, Marcus appeared on my doorstep, alone. He looked older, tiredness etched around his eyes. He held a cardboard box. I found these, he said when I opened the door, in Vanessa's car. More of your things she had taken. I accepted the box without inviting him in. Inside were photo albums I had thought lost forever, pictures of Marcus as a baby, as a boy, as a young man. His father and I smiling beside him at every milestone. Mom, he said, his voice breaking. I was wrong, so wrong. I got caught up in what Vanessa wanted in the future she painted. I forgot who I was, who raised me. I forgot what matters. I looked at my son, standing on the porch where he had played as a child. The anger was still there, but something else too, a crack in the wall I had built around my heart. I'm not asking for forgiveness, he continued when I remained silent. Not yet. I haven't earned it. But I'm asking for a chance, someday to try. I don't know, Marcus, I said honestly. Some broken things can't be fixed. I understand. He turned to go, then stopped. I'm teaching a class on African American history this semester, about our roots, our resilience, about how families survived impossible hardships. I think about you every time I teach it, about how strong you are, how you never gave up on what matters. He left without another word. I watched him walk down the street, shoulders bent, looking nothing like the confident professor he had become, much more like the uncertain boy he had once been. That night, I sat in my living room surrounded by the photos he had returned, images of a family that no longer existed in the same way, but whose echoes remained in every corner of the house. I ran my fingers over James's face, remembering how he used to say that forgiveness wasn't about excusing wrong actions, but about refusing to let bitterness take root in your heart. A week later, I called Marcus. We met at a neutral location, the coffee shop where I had first realized what he and Vanessa were planning. The symmetry wasn't lost on me. I'm not ready to forgive, I told him directly, but I'm willing to listen, to try to understand how my son could have considered taking everything from me. He didn't make excuses. Instead, he talked about his own failings, his weakness in the face of Vanessa's stronger personality, how he had allowed her ambition to overshadow his principles. He spoke of shame so deep it kept him awake at night. I don't expect to ever have your trust again, he said. I just want you to know that I see what I almost lost, what I did lose. Not the house or any inheritance, but something much more valuable. The respect of the woman who taught me right from wrong, who sacrificed everything for me, who loved me unconditionally until I proved I didn't deserve it. Love doesn't work that way, I said, surprising myself. It doesn't disappear, because someone disappoints you, even profoundly, it changes. Maybe it carries scars, but it doesn't vanish. We began a slow, careful rebuilding. Weekly coffees that became occasional dinners. Conversations that started superficially and gradually deepened. He filed for divorce from Vanessa, who had relocated to Florida after her license was permanently revoked following the ethics investigation. A year later, on my 70th birthday, my doorbell rang. Marcus stood there with a small, wrapped gift and a nervous smile. "May I come in?" he asked, still uncertain of his welcome, despite months of cautious reconciliation. I opened the door wider. He followed me to the living room where he had played as a child, where he had once plotted to take my home, where we were now trying to heal old wounds. The gift was a key on a silver chain. "It's symbolic," he explained. "A new key to your house, which I had made, to replace the one Vanessa took, to acknowledge that this is your home, your sanctuary, and you decide who enters and when." I held the key in my palm, feeling its weight. "There's something else," he continued. "I've been offered a visiting professor position at Howard University. It's a good opportunity, but it means leaving New York for a while. Before I decide, I wanted to ask if you'd be willing to come visit me in D.C. sometimes, or if that's too much." The Marcus before me now was different from the son who had betrayed me, but also different from the boy I had raised. There was a humility to him now, a thoughtfulness that hardship brings. He had learned painful lessons about loyalty, about character, about consequences. "I'd like that," I said simply. "Washington has good museums." His smile was cautious but genuine. But we weren't fully healed. Perhaps we never would be, but we were finding a new path forward. That evening, after he left, I sat on my porch swing watching the neighborhood settle into night. The young couple across the street waved as they walked their dog. Mrs. Rodriguez from next door brought over a plate of empanadas. Sitting with me for a while to discuss her grandson's college applications. The familiar rhythms of a community I had been part of for decades continued around me. My house stood solid behind me, a testament to a life built with care and sacrifice. It had weathered storms, both literal and figurative. It had seen joy and grief, betrayal and reconciliation. One day, it would serve others through the trust I had established, providing shelter to those who needed it. But for now, it remained my home, a place no one could take from me, a sanctuary I had defended with the same strength I had used to build my life. A reminder that even at 69, then 70, I was still capable of standing firm, of fighting for what was mine, of beginning again when necessary. The future stretched before me, uncertain as always, but fully mine to determine. I was no longer merely surviving betrayal, but building something new from its ruins. Not forgetting, not excusing, but choosing to move forward with hard-won wisdom and a clear understanding of what truly matters: dignity, self-determination, and the courage to protect what is yours. As the evening deepened into night, I went inside, locking my door securely with the key that had always been mine to use. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges, but I would face them as I had faced everything in my nearly 7 decades of life, with resilience, with determination, and with the quiet confidence that comes from knowing exactly who you are and what you stand for. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left